Have you ever felt like no matter how much you give, people just take you for granted? You lend a helping hand, yet the appreciation never comes. You offer support, but instead of gratitude, you're met with entitlement. Moments like these can leave you questioning yourself. Am I being too kind? Am I being naive? But before you let doubt creep in, take a deep breath. The problem isn't your kindness. It's how, when, and to whom you give it. Philosophy teaches us that when guided by wisdom, kindness is a sign of strength, not weakness. However, kindness without boundaries is an open door for manipulation. This video isn't about becoming less kind. It's about becoming strategically kind. Together, we'll explore the wisdom of Stoic philosophy and uncover how to practice generosity in a way that commands respect instead of inviting disrespect. So, stay with me. Every second of this video could forever change how you see kindness. This message has the power to reshape how you approach kindness, ensuring it becomes a strength no one can overlook. The first reason your kindness might be working against you. Imagine a man named Daniel. He's a generous neighbor, always willing to lend a hand whenever someone is in need. When his friend forgets their house keys, Daniel skips dinner to drive across town and deliver the spare. When a neighbor's fence breaks, he puts his projects on hold to repair it. At first, his help is met with sincere gratitude. But over time, Daniel's generosity becomes an expectation. One day, he turns down a request because he's overwhelmed with work. Instead of understanding, he faces criticism. Daniel begins to feel taken advantage of, questioning whether his kindness is truly valued. We've all been in Daniel's shoes. Kindness, when given without boundaries, can be easily misunderstood or taken for granted. Stoic philosophy teaches that the issue isn't kindness itself, but how we practice it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts." If your kindness stems from a need to please others or a fear of rejection, your soul absorbs the shade of dependency. However, when guided by values and self-awareness, kindness transforms into strength. Consider another example. Olivia, a top-performing employee at a major corporation. She frequently stays late and takes on extra responsibilities without complaint, and initially, her dedication is admired by colleagues and praised by her boss. But as time passes, her efforts become an expectation rather than an appreciated gesture. One evening, Olivia refuses to stay late due to health concerns. The response? Disappointment from her boss and inconvenience expressed by her peers. That's when she realizes kindness without limits doesn't inspire respect. It breeds endless demands. Stoic wisdom emphasizes that kindness is not about self-sacrifice without restraint, but requires balance and discernment. Setting boundaries does not diminish the value of kindness. Rather, it protects it from being exploited. Kindness that lacks confidence and self-awareness risks becoming a cycle of resentment for the giver and entitlement for the receiver. The lesson here is simple but profound. Give with an open heart, but never forget to set limits. Your kindness is a valuable asset, not an infinite obligation. When you practice purposeful kindness, you not only protect your dignity, but also enhance the impact of your generosity. Kindness should never be a means to seek approval. It should reflect your inner strength, something no one can diminish. The second reason is the delicate line between kindness and people-pleasing. Imagine a man named Thomas, a devoted father who always puts his family first. Whenever someone in his household needs assistance, Thomas is there. He works long hours to provide, spends evenings fixing things around the house, and dedicates his weekends to driving his children to their activities. At first, his family appreciates his dedication, but over time, his constant willingness turns into an expectation. When he finally refuses a request because he's exhausted, he's met with complaints. "But you always help. Why not this time?" That's when Thomas realizes that his unwavering devotion hasn't fostered respect, but has instead created unchecked entitlement. Many of us can relate to Thomas's story. Kindness, when given without limits, is often taken for granted or even exploited. Stoic philosophy teaches that kindness is not about endless sacrifice, but about deliberate action requiring wisdom and balance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul takes the shape of its thoughts." If your kindness is driven by fear of letting others down, your soul will absorb the weight of that dependency. But when it is rooted in values and self-awareness, it transforms into true strength. Consider another example. Rachel, a dedicated nurse who always goes the extra mile for her patients and colleagues. Initially, her efforts are met with appreciation, but over time, they become an expectation. One day, Rachel decides to take a break to focus on her well-being, only to be met with criticism for not being as available as before. That's when she understands. Kindness without boundaries will never be respected. It will only create endless demands. Stoic philosophy stresses that kindness must be reinforced with mindfulness and intention. Setting boundaries does not weaken your kindness. It strengthens it. It's not a sign of selfishness, but a way to honor yourself and those around you. By establishing boundaries, you protect your kindness from being misused and preserve it as a genuine act of goodwill. So next time you feel pressured to say yes, ask yourself, does this align with my values? Am I giving out of true sincerity or out of fear of rejection? These questions help you assess your motivations and shape your kindness wisely. Remember, boundaries are not barriers. They are the framework for building healthy relationships based on respect and balance. When you practice intentional kindness, you enrich your own life while turning your generosity into a force no one can take for granted. The third key principle, staying kind without losing your true essence. Imagine a man named Ethan, known among his friends and co-workers for his boundless generosity and enthusiasm. If someone needs help moving, Ethan is the first to show up with a truck. If a co-worker is overwhelmed, Ethan willingly takes on extra tasks. At first, his kindness is appreciated, but as time goes on, his willingness turns into an expectation. One day, he decides to say no. He's exhausted and needs rest. Instead of understanding, he's met with disappointment and even criticism. That's when Ethan realizes that his kindness, despite being well-intentioned, has been misunderstood and taken for granted. This situation is not unique to Ethan. It reflects a common reality. When kindness isn't paired with self-assertion, it can be misinterpreted as weakness. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on reason and self-awareness, teaches that true kindness is not about giving endlessly, but about purposeful giving, rooted in personal values and balance. Kindness should never stem from fear of rejection or a desire to please. It should reflect your inner strength and self-respect. Consider Sophia, a devoted mother who always prioritizes her family's needs above her own. She sacrifices personal time, hobbies, and self-care to ensure everyone else is taken care of. Initially, her family deeply appreciated her efforts. However, as time passes, her sacrifices become an unspoken expectation. One day, Sophia makes a decision to reserve one evening per week just for herself, whether it's reading, practicing yoga, or simply unwinding. At first, her family resists, accustomed to her constant availability. But Sophia understands that without boundaries, she risks burnout and diminishing the value of her contributions. Through this decision, she learns that self-love is just as vital as loving others. Stoic philosophy reminds us that boundaries are not barriers, but tools to safeguard mental well-being and maintain healthy relationships. Boundaries make kindness more visible and respected. When you set limits, you not only protect yourself, but also teach others to appreciate your efforts. Everything begins with small actions, politely declining invitations that don't interest you, or limiting the amount of help you can offer. Now, picture a different scenario. You have a friend who frequently borrows money but never repays it. Initially, you lend because you genuinely believe they need help. But as the requests increase, you start to feel taken advantage of. Without boundaries, the cycle continues. Setting a firm but respectful limit not only safeguards your finances, but also forces your friend to confront their behavior. Though it may feel uncomfortable at first, it fosters a healthier and more balanced environment. Kindness in relationships should never come at the expense of self-neglect. Instead, it should be expressed with confidence, clarity, and honesty about your values. This doesn't diminish your worth in others' eyes. On the contrary, it demonstrates that you understand your limits and live with integrity. A thoughtfully communicated no can garner more respect than a reluctant yes. By setting boundaries and learning to say no with grace, you not only protect your mental health, but also inspire others to do the same. You show that kindness is not submission, but strength, born from self-respect and sincerity. When practiced intentionally, kindness enriches your life and extends its value to those around you. However, for kindness to flourish, you must learn to protect it. So, think back. When was the last time you said yes to something you didn't want to do? Next time, will you have the courage to set a boundary without compromising your innate kindness? Often, it's in these small, everyday moments that we rediscover the balance between kindness and self-respect, a balance essential for living a meaningful and honorable life. Achieving the right balance between kindness and self-respect reminds me of an experience I had years ago. I once helped a close friend fix her car. She was struggling financially and couldn't afford a mechanic. I spent my entire Saturday diagnosing the problem, sourcing parts, and making repairs. At first, she was incredibly grateful, even bringing me coffee and pastries as a token of appreciation. But just a few weeks later, when her car had another issue, she called me again, not to ask, but almost expecting me to step in. It wasn't that I didn't want to help, but the assumption in her tone made me feel my efforts were being taken for granted. That was the moment I realized that kindness without boundaries not only exhausts you, but also diminishes its value. Stoic philosophy teaches us that kindness must be paired with wisdom and clear boundaries. Without them, kindness can be misinterpreted, undervalued, or even exploited. I began to understand that setting boundaries doesn't make you less kind. Rather, it preserves your kindness as a sincere, voluntary act rather than an obligation. Boundaries aren't walls that isolate us from others. They are bridges that foster healthy relationships. Take, for example, Daniel, a colleague of mine who always took on extra tasks for others because he struggled to say no. At first, everyone praised him as a great team player who was always willing to help. But as the workload increased, he began to feel overwhelmed. Eventually, he decided to set limits, declining unnecessary requests and focusing on his own responsibilities. Strangely, instead of straining relationships, this newfound clarity earned him greater respect. Similarly, I once observed a mother who sacrificed all her time for her family. She gave up hobbies and leisure activities, dedicating every moment to her children and husband. Initially, her sacrifices were appreciated, but over time, they became an unspoken expectation. When she finally decided to take one evening per week for herself to attend yoga classes, her family was confused, even resistant. But over time, they saw that this change not only gave her renewed energy, but also taught them the value of balance. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that kindness isn't just about giving, it's about knowing when to hold back. A kind gesture carries more meaning when it is done willingly and sincerely, rather than out of pressure to please others. Ask yourself, do I truly want to do this? Does this align with my values? These questions help you recognize when to say yes and when to say no. Kindness is not self-sacrifice. It is voluntary dedication. Remember, kindness retains its true value only when balanced with self-respect and boundaries. Stoic teachings remind us that practicing kindness with wisdom and self-awareness not only nurtures meaningful relationships, but also helps us live a fulfilled and authentic life. So, the next time someone asks for your help, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, is this how I want to express my kindness? The answer will guide you to make decisions that protect yourself while still spreading the true essence of kindness. Turning kindness into a source of inner strength is essential. Kindness is one of the greatest gifts we offer the world, but at times, that very gift can leave us feeling drained or unappreciated. There are moments when our kindness is misunderstood, overlooked, or worse, taken for granted. However, such experiences should never deter us from the path of kindness. Instead, Stoic philosophy teaches us that true kindness must stem from inner strength, a flame that remains steady no matter how intense the storm. The winds of ingratitude or disregard may blow fiercely, but they cannot shake the unwavering foundation of true virtue. Epictetus once advised that we should not waste time debating what a good man should be, but rather strive to be one. His words remind us that the worth of kindness is not measured by how others receive or acknowledge it, but by our steadfast commitment to moral principles. Imagine a workplace scenario where you tirelessly support a colleague, only to watch them claim full credit for a project's success without acknowledging your contributions. The sting of betrayal is undeniably painful. However, Stoicism teaches that the value of your kindness is not determined by how it is received, but by your unshakable resolve to do what is right. True kindness stems from an inner conviction. It does not require validation to flourish. It exists because you choose to act rightly, regardless of external recognition. This principle applies even in the most intimate of relationships. Picture a mother who lovingly prepares every meal for her family, always the last to leave the table after cleaning up. Initially, her dedication is met with gratitude, but over time, it becomes an unspoken expectation. If her kindness is tied to the desire for appreciation, she may feel disheartened and exhausted. However, if she acts out of love and the belief that this is how she nurtures her family, her strength remains unwavering, no matter how indifferent others appear. Stoicism invites us to examine our motives. Why am I kind? Where does my kindness originate? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. If kindness arises from a need for approval or affirmation, it becomes fragile, crumbling in the absence of a response. But when it is rooted in inner will and core values, it becomes immovable, unaffected by the behavior of others. In its purest form, kindness strikes a delicate balance between compassion and self-respect. It is the art of merging generosity with firm boundaries and empathy with reason. In healthy relationships, kindness is not a one-way street where one party gives and the other merely takes. It is a sincere exchange that nurtures both sides, fostering mutual growth and understanding. In this equilibrium, kindness transcends its conventional meaning, transforming into a powerful force that deepens and enriches relationships. Stoicism underscores that kindness not only alleviates the suffering of others, but also strengthens us, turning every act of generosity into a living expression of dignity and inner strength. Seneca wisely observed that wherever there are human beings, there is an opportunity for kindness. When practiced with wisdom, kindness does more than bring joy. It forges meaningful, lasting connections. However, this is only possible when we uphold our self-respect and sense of worthwhile giving. You cannot truly be kind to others if you are not kind to yourself. This requires self-awareness. Is my kindness constructive? Does it contribute to mutual growth? If the answer aligns with your principles, your kindness is both genuine and purposeful. Kindness is not a sign of weakness. It is a conscious choice and a profound expression of inner strength. In a world that often values toughness over tenderness, kindness becomes a declaration of dignity, not through loud demands, but through quiet, unwavering action. When you choose kindness not out of fear of losing respect, but as a reflection of your values, you earn the respect not of all, but of those who truly appreciate generosity of spirit. So ask yourself, does my kindness make me stronger? Does it help me live in alignment with my values? If your answer is yes, then you have transformed kindness into an inner power, something unshaken by the ingratitude or disrespect of others. Ultimately, kindness is not something you offer in pursuit of recognition. It is a choice you make to affirm who you are. In Stoicism, this is how we live with freedom and integrity. Today, we explored 5 powerful lessons about kindness, how to turn it into an inner strength, set boundaries without losing compassion, and ensure that your kindness breeds respect rather than exploitation. These lessons deepen your understanding of yourself and guide practicing kindness wisely, allowing you to live your values with confidence and pride. Remember, kindness is never a weakness. It is the ultimate expression of a mature, enlightened soul, guided by wisdom and love. Kindness has taught me that not everyone appreciates good intentions, and that's okay. I've learned that giving without expecting recognition is a sign of strength, not weakness. However, I've also learned that kindness without boundaries can lead to burnout and resentment. The key is to be kind, but not at the expense of self-respect. True kindness isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about standing by your values while showing compassion. I've learned that saying no when necessary is just as important as offering help. Respect isn't earned through endless sacrifice, but through confidence and wisdom in giving. Every act of kindness must come from within, not from a desire for approval. When kindness is balanced with self-respect, it becomes an empowering force rather than a burden. I now see kindness as a conscious choice, not an obligation. The lesson here is clear. Be kind, but never at the expense of yourself. I'd love to hear your experiences with kindness, when it's rewarding and when it's challenging. And if you find this message valuable, please share it with those who need to hear it.